we found ourselves in a real funny situation where we actually had to take somebody's vehicle that didn't belong to us because we were in a war zone, and we were trying to get out. And we're going down these roads. We didn't know where we were going, and I was driving. Okay, and I'm like, where do I go? Do I turn left? Do I turn right? And the person just said one thing every time: says, just go, just go.
What is your name and where do you currently live?
My name is Mike Anticoli, and I have been living in a small town outside of Kampala in Uganda. It's called Entebbe Garuga. Oh, let me see. Well, of course, I started out right here in Connecticut. I lived here in Waterbury, Connecticut, and I moved in 1993 to the country of Ukraine, where I met my wife, who was from Germany. And we got married in the States and then moved over to Russia, where we lived for 10 years. And from Russia, we moved to Sweden for a very short period of time. And then we launched out into the Democratic Republic of Congo for a few years. And then we moved back to Sweden and then moved to Uganda literally 5 months ago. Well, I've done a lot of different things through the years. We started out doing tent evangelism. That was in Ukraine. And then when we moved to Russia, one of the things we noticed that was missing was the youth in these evangelistic crusades. So we decided to start a center reaching out to drug addicts. They call them neformals, anybody that doesn't conform to the norm of society, and they find ways to express themselves through punk rock or heavy metal, or just different subculture, young people. And that was a wonderful time. We started a Bible school at that time as well. We've also planted our first church when we were over in Russia. Then we moved over to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Things changed a little bit because we started Bible schools, full-time Bible schools. They ran for 2 years. Those schools are still functioning today, as a matter of fact. Then we started a church planting movement where we have about 20 of them. And it's just developed into so many different avenues since that time, because all of these churches, they have different mission focuses that they want to do, like, for example, unreached people groups, going into the forest where, pygmies live like Stone Age times. And then there was the war and the jihad that we find in Congo, and you're dealing with refugees. So we still do the church planting and help others plant churches, helping others plant schools. But now we're at a time in our life, 30 years as missionaries on the field, living in all these different countries, we really want to help the next generation. We want to help them move forward. Well, through the years that we've been on the mission field, we've really had some wonderful opportunities to experience, just on the ground training and learning as we go. We made a lot of mistakes along the way. We've learned a lot of lessons. We've learned some things not to do, some things that are better to do. And, it's funny, as the years go by, you start to look around and you find yourself to be one of the oldest people in the room. And it's a responsibility that we kind of just woke up to. And we just really want to invest our time now, these 3 decades of missions work, in the younger generation. And there's a very big receptivity to that, because the next generation, they're full of passion, they're full of fire, they're excited about God, they have vision, they want to be busy in the things of God. But a lot of them are really looking, for that person that will just help them along the way. So that's something that my wife and I are doing now, and we're finding a lot of joy and fulfillment in it. Well, the gospel is most definitely good news. I was a very lost and confused young man. I got saved out of a drug culture out of a subculture of punk music as well. And all the things that went along with that. There was sadness, there was despair, rejection, all those things. But when I found out that God loved me and had a plan for my life, that's the best news I had ever heard in my life. And I just received Jesus, jumped in 100%, and I've never looked back since. Yes, I most definitely do. I think sometimes people may confuse fulfilling their part in the Great Commission with being a missionary. They associate the Great Commission with being a missionary. I believe that those are separate things, because we all have a part to play in the Great Commission of making disciples. But definitely there's a grace that comes upon missionaries. I was speaking with somebody about it, a friend of mine who has been a part-time missionary over in South America. And he just tells me about how living there is driving him crazy. People don't know how to drive, and they don't leave any car lengths, and motorcycles are coming in and out. He says, it just drives me crazy, and after 6 months, I just got to get out of there and recharge. And I was laughing because for me, it bothers me for like the first week or so, and then it becomes the new normal. So I'd have to say that there's a grace that comes upon a missionary where God allows us to endure things that are just exhausting, so that we can actually work within that norm and still get the job done. When other people, they just got to hightail it out. That God can use anybody. You're going to learn as you go. It's not like you go to some program. I mean, programs are good. I mean, I believe in schools, I believe in education, but I don't believe that you have to attain any type of education or certificate or complete any type of course for God to use you on the mission field. I think that there's room for all of us to grow, you know, as we go. And honestly, I would say, this is what I tell everybody when I talk to them about missions. This is probably going to go into the next question. But 30 years on the mission field, I have learned more than I have taught. I have received more than I have given. And that pretty much, if you could remain with those ideas and those thoughts and that type of, I know it may not sound humble because I'm saying it's humility, but that's what it is. I think that the greatest qualification to be used by God on the mission field is that type of humility that says, I'm going to learn even more than I teach. I'm going to receive more from God than what I'm going to give. And I think that if you keep those things in mind, you'll do well on the mission field. Anybody. I'm currently living in Uganda. Well, we could really live in just about any country that we want to with the responsibilities that we have. A lot of my responsibility is checking up on missionaries and works in different parts of the world. But we lived in Congo for a few years, and Congo has recently been under severe persecution with jihad. So bad that we've lost a few of our churches. We've lost many church members. When I say lost, they have been executed. And we want to be close to them. And it's too unsafe for us to actually live in Congo. It would make it very difficult for the people there because we would bring unwanted attention to the churches. But if we live in Uganda, we're very, very close to them. And I could come in and out fairly quickly, and they can come to me. And we can still do a lot of work on the ground in Uganda in the middle of all of that. But I guess the short answer is, in Uganda, we're much closer to family in Congo. Well, as far as moving, I think he's giving us a greater understanding of the people and of the culture that is there. He has confirmed that spiritual fatherhood and spiritual mothers is a great need in that country. And we've seen God open up the hearts of some young people, passionate, just love God, and are just looking for that encouragement to move forward. So we've seen God move in the hearts of the younger generation. And we've just been so thrilled to be a small part of that. Well, I think every missionary's greatest need is to be fruitful. You know, we would appreciate all the prayers that we could get, that the time that we put in, it's making a difference, that God would use us, that God would anoint the words that we speak as we reach out to this next generation of leaders, missionaries, church planters. We just want to be able to give them the tools that they need. And we know that's a supernatural thing, that's not a natural thing. And through prayers of others and our own, we can see God move. That's our greatest need, to see Him move and be effective in the efforts we do. You know, I was on a mission journey with some friends, and we found ourselves in a real funny situation where we actually had to take somebody's vehicle that didn't belong to us because we were in a war zone, and we were trying to get out. And we're going down these roads. We didn't know where we were going. And I was driving, okay? And I'm like, where do I go? Do I turn left? Do I turn right? And the person just said one thing every time. He says, just go, just go. How do I go down to another junction? Where do I go, left or right? He goes, just go. And we finally got to a place of safety, and it just dawned on me, what a statement. Just go. If God puts something on your heart to serve Him in the nations, just go. Experience it. It doesn't take any talent whatsoever. It simply takes love. You got to love God. You got to love other people. You want that heart to be a blessing to somebody else. And again, it doesn't take any talent. So don't overthink it. If you have an opportunity, go with some seasoned people that know what they're doing. Be a servant. And again, realize that you're going to learn, more than you'll teach. You'll receive more than you give. And if you just keep those things in mind, you'll have a wonderful time. And who knows what God may open up for you. I still am.